Governments always say the same thing. We're working for your financial freedom. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Stability, growth, opportunities. But when you look at history a little more carefully, you realize things aren't as innocent as they seem. In reality, governments have been using very similar methods for centuries to keep ordinary people poor while consolidating power for themselves. And these methods are not new at all. They just change shape, change labels. But the goal is always the same: to give value to the wealth at the top and leave the majority devalued. Let's start with the oldest tactic: inflation. What we call inflation today is actually a very old trick. When a government spends more money than it collects, it has two choices: raise taxes openly, which people don't like, or quietly devalue the currency, meaning shrinking the money in your pocket without telling you. Rome mastered this technique. They slowly reduced the silver content in the denarius. From the outside, the coin looked the same, but inside it was mostly copper. They thought the public wouldn't notice, but the result was obvious. Prices skyrocketed, wages couldn't keep up, savings evaporated. Today the same thing happens. They just call it monetary policy. In the Middle Ages there was another method: forced loans. Kings would tell wealthy merchants, lend money to the crown. Voluntary? Of course not. If you refused, there were fines, confiscation of property, or worse. They promised repayment, but it was often late, in devalued currency, or didn't happen at all. Once again the burden fell on ordinary people, merchants and artisans. They called it patriotic duty. But in reality it was forced collection. Later, governments turned the entire financial system into a trick. When the Bank of England was founded in 1694, the goal wasn't to strengthen the nation. The purpose was simple: to finance a war. The wealthy lent money to the state. The state guaranteed them interest. And who paid that interest? The people, through taxes on everyday goods. The wealthy earned risk-free returns. The public paid the bill. And this system still continues today. Nothing has changed in the modern world either. Only the names of the methods. Budget deficits and debt governments constantly borrow money. They say roads, bridges, social programs. But most of the money goes to big corporations, the defense sector, and banks. When it's time to repay the debt, the burden shifts to the public. Taxes rise, inflation increases, social benefits are cut. They say, this debt is for the people, but the cost always falls on the people. Bailouts. In the 2008 crisis, big banks nearly collapsed the entire system. Who saved them? Ordinary taxpayers like you and me. And what happened afterward? The same banks kept growing. In other words, profits are private, losses are public. The pension system, an official-looking Ponzi scheme. People work for decades and pay into pension funds. But the government doesn't actually save that money. It spends it. It leaves a note saying future generations will pay the bill. Then, when the population ages, the system collapses. The government finds its solution: reduce pensions, raise the retirement age, inflate the value of payouts. Same cycle, every time. If you pay attention, the common trait of governments is word games: inflation, economic growth, forced loans, duty, state debt, investment, bailouts, protecting the system, pension cuts, reform. What they say and what's real are completely different. The trick always hides in perception. In today's world, things have become even more complex. Quantitative easing, QE. After 2008, central banks printed trillions of dollars. Markets were saved, house prices and stock markets skyrocketed. So who owns these assets? The wealthy. For the average person, there was almost no benefit, but there was a downside: a more expensive life. Hidden taxes, especially inflation. Governments don't raise direct taxes, they raise prices instead. Your purchasing power drops without you noticing. This is a hidden tax, when the people who write the rules are the ones benefiting from them. Regulations appear to protect the public, but large corporations shape them to serve their own interests. This is a very old trick. War financing still works the same way. Governments sell bonds and say, support your country. But most of the people who buy these bonds are already wealthy, and the cost is once again paid by the public. And the most powerful trick of all? Using complexity as a weapon. Tax codes, financial jargon, incomprehensible budgets. If people don't understand it, they don't question it. If they don't question it, they don't notice what's happening. In Rome, the trick was debased silver coins. Today, it's massive balance sheets hidden behind complicated terminology. Why does this matter? Because these tricks still work, and faster than ever. Inflation eats your savings. Debt keeps growing. Big corporations are always rescued. Governments pass the costs on to the public. The system doesn't exist to protect you. It exists to protect itself. History tells a simple truth. The tricks remain the same, Itapo, only their form changes. There's not much difference between the financial burdens people suffered in Roman times and the ones you face today. They're just decorated with more modern language, and most people don't even realize it, because financial literacy is low and economic history is forgotten, and that's exactly what governments prefer. A public that doesn't understand what's going on. So what can you do? Look beyond the headlines. Remember that inflation isn't destiny. Question who writes the rules. Invest in things that hold real value. Know that the system exists to protect itself, not you. History may not repeat exactly, but if you don't understand it, the same stone will trip you again. Just like the people of Rome were drained of their wealth, today your money is eroding through similar mechanisms. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. On this journey, history tells us everything, and I'll show you where to start.